What's going on, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, and wow, what a finale for Wandavision. There's a lot that we thought would happen that did happen, and a lot that we hoped and thought would happen that didn't happen. Either way, it was truly fantastic, and there is a ton to break down, so let's get started and dive right into it. But first, if you're new and you love Marvel, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the future Marvel videos, including ones for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up. So I'll first start off by explaining the two end credit scenes. Then I'll tell you what WandaVision and the post credit scenes set up for the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including my breakdown and theory of who the villain of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is going to be. Then we'll do a scene by scene, shot by shot breakdown of the entire episode of the WandaVision finale. So starting with the first end credit scene. It starts with Jimmy Woo telling everybody to gather around. He's naming locations that would be good spot for people to set up shop, like medicals going in the pharmacy, and they're going to start gathering evidence. He meets up with Monica Rambeau and he asks where Darcy is, and Monica explains that Darcy said that debriefs are for the week. Basically, she's not attending. She literally came in for one scene to hit Hayward and trap him so they could catch him. Then she dipped, kind of like White Vision, which of course we'll talk about later. Hayward is taken into custody because he committed a lot of crimes trying to frame Wanda and kill her. Then of course he stole Vision's body and turned him into a weapon, which is against the Sokovia Accords and the Vision's own will. Not to mention he tried to shoot some kids. Whether or not they were real or not, it doesn't really matter. He shot at some kids. But then an unnamed agent goes up to Monica and says they're asking for you in the theater. Monica goes into the theater and the agent follows her, only to reveal that she is actually a Skrull and is actually the one that needed to talk to her. Now, Skrull are no surprise to Monica Rambeau. She of course was the little girl, the daughter of Maria Rambeau in Captain Marvel. It doesn't specifically say who this particular Skrull is, but she does say that she was sent by an old friend of Monica's mother's. He heard you've been grounded. He'd like to meet with you. Monica asks where, and the woman points up. Now, since they are saying he, and they're saying he is an old friend of Monica's mother, Maria, she is most likely referring to one of two people. One would be Talos from Captain Marvel, leader of the Skrull that we know so far, who also made an appearance in the post-credit scene of Spider-Man Far From Home. But who she's most likely referring to is actually Nick Fury. Nick Fury, of course, worked with Captain Marvel and Maria Rambeau in Captain Marvel, and we do know that he is up. He is in space in what we believe to be the Peak, Sword's headquarters in the comics that is located above Earth. This is why she is pointing up, because right now Nick Fury is up in space. This is definitely setting up Monica Rambeau to play a key part in Disney's and Marvel's upcoming Secret Invasion Disney Plus show. This will involve the Skrull, Nick Fury, and it looks like it's now going to involve Monica Rambeau. We then have the second mind-blowing end credit scene with Wanda all by herself. This scene was shot in New Zealand, although it's unclear if that's where they want us to believe she is right now. Wanda is alone in the mountains all by herself, drinking some tea, and she goes inside the kitchen to get some more tea, but the camera continues past the kitchen into the bedroom. This is where we see the Scarlet Witch hovering over the bed in true Doctor Strange fashion, studying the Darkhold, or the Book of the Damned as Agatha calls it. As she is studying it, it looks like she is casting spells, and we can see a bunch of different circles surrounding her. And if you take a look in the book, when Agatha is reading out of it to Wanda, we can actually see on the left page here a bunch of different circles in here as well. And I believe these are actually different dimensions, universes, realms, whatever Marvel is going to title them. Now, some people are wondering if there are two different Wandas now, one the Scarlet Witch and one Wanda, since we see two of them in this scene, but it looks like Wanda is simply astral projecting like Doctor Strange did in his movie. If you recall, when Doctor Strange was sleeping, he was also studying at the same time. This is essentially what Wanda is doing. However, as Agatha said, she is stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme, so she can actually be up and moving and drinking tea and still studying at the same time. Seems to be a little bit more than Strange could do. But again, this leads into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But as she is studying, she hears the voice of her children, and she hears them say, "Mom, help. Help, Mom, please." Not only does this tell us that her kids are actually alive somewhere, but it tells us that they're in distress. And it seems like at the very end, Wanda knows where they are. So what is most likely happening here, and this gets a little bit into my theory now, is that Wanda, with those circles around her, was actually looking through different realms to find her kids. She felt them and knew that they still existed somewhere, just not in this earthly realm. So she was searching other realms until she eventually found them. But when she finds them, they're in distress and they need help. And I believe that they could be in the Hell dimension. Now, I know we didn't see Mephisto at any point in time, but it does make sense that Tommy and Billy would be stuck in the Hell dimension. In the comics, Wanda's twin boys are actually shards of the soul of the demon Mephisto. She has the twin boys, but eventually Mephisto would take them back and they would cease to exist. Something similar could be happening here, whereas Tommy and Billy don't necessarily exist in the earthly realm, but they have moved on to Mephisto's Hell realm because they are actually part his kids. We knew that Billy and Tommy weren't Vision's kids because he's a synthezoid, he can't have kids, but Wanda had to get impregnated somehow. So perhaps they really were part of the soul of Mephisto and they have now returned to the Hell dimension where he resides. After all, Agatha did call the Darkhold the Book of the Damned. And where did the damned go? They go to hell. Now, Agatha did confirm that this book that we saw was indeed the Darkhold. Not that we really had any doubt. This means that the evil elder god Chthon or Mephisto, somebody like that, is coming. There's an evil big bad villain on his way, and I'll tell you exactly how this all works. Agatha tells Wanda, "Give me your powers and I'll let you keep your family and this town and your fake reality." Agatha specifically says, "Surrender your powers," making it very clear that Wanda wasn't actually born with these powers, but they were actually given to her. And since they were given to her, she can give them up. Ultimately, in this episode, Wanda goes on to become the Scarlet Witch, and Agatha says, "You don't know what you've done." And then she says, "You have no idea what you've unleashed." And what she's referring to is chaos magic. This is because her chaos magic comes from the one who created the Darkhold. You see, the book, The Darkhold, was created by the evil elder god Chthon. He was the original creator of chaos magic. And he put a part of this inside of the Darkhold, and in the comics, he put a part of his chaos magic inside of Wanda. And he did that so he could eventually return to the Earth realm. So essentially what Wanda has done here is enable a way for him to return to the Earth realm. After all, Agatha does say that there's a whole section in the Darkhold dedicated to the Scarlet Witch. Most likely because this is how he's going to return. Now again, Agatha calls the Book of the Damned, so I again will say that Chthon, or the main villain that's coming, could be a cross between Chthon and Mephisto, because where do the damned go? They go to hell, where Mephisto controls that realm. It's clear they're alive, and it's clear that they're trapped in a different realm, and this is where Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is going to come into play. Wanda is going to start tearing apart different universes and dimensions in search for her children. And Doctor Strange's job is protecting the main reality, so naturally he's going to come into play. And he will no doubt realize what Wanda has done. Opened a portal for a way for Mephisto or Chthon, or a combination of the two, to get back to Earth. And this is obviously Doctor Strange's problem to deal with, unfortunately. After all, we know that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is supposed to be Marvel's first horror type movie. Scott Derrickson was originally directing it, and now Sam Raimi is directing it, both horror film directors. So we're definitely going to be getting some super evil being coming in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and this is who I believe it's going to be, a combination of Chthon and Mephisto. And that is my theory on what is said at the end. Let's now go into our shot-by-shot breakdown. Now, the last few episodes of Wandavision, Marvel hasn't exactly been dropping a ton of Easter eggs, but of course there are still some, and there is a ton to break down. We start with the very first scene. We start off right where we left off with WandaVision episode 8. Agatha has Wanda's twin boys hostage. Wanda tells Agatha that her powers work outside, and Agatha says that she's counting on it. This is because Agatha wants to take this power, this chaos magic, from Wanda. And Wanda can see that as she uses the magic against her, Agatha does kind of start to take it away from her, and it starts to drain Wanda. Things get intense when Wanda drops a car on Agatha, and then we get a Wizard of Oz Easter egg here. Wanda goes up to the car and she only sees her boots under the car. This is a direct reference to Dorothy's house falling on the Wicked Witch of the East, and only her boots remain in the Wizard of Oz. Then White Vision comes into the picture, and Wanda thinks it might be the real Vision, but she learns very soon that it is not, and he is there to kill her. But of course, her Vision comes to save the day. Now, if you look closely, you can see that Vision has an arc reactor in his head where the Mind Stone would originally be. This looks just like the arc reactor that Tony Stark had in in his chest that powered his Iron Man suits. Could this be the same technology that Tony Stark used? Could he have given S.W.O.R.D. permission to use this technology, or did they use it without his consent? This could set up Armor Wars. Armor Wars is a series coming to Disney Plus that is going to focus on War Machine and Iron Man armor, specifically what happens when Tony Stark's technology falls into the wrong hands. And if S.W.O.R.D., specifically Hayward, who we know is bad, is using Tony Stark's technology, this could definitely set up Armor Wars and White Vision to return for Armor Wars. Now, when Vision saves Wanda, he says, "I know why you made this world," and Wanda says, "I can fix it." But then Vision says, "Can you?" He knows without the hex that he'll go away, and he knows that Wanda is going to have to make that choice. So what he's really asking is, can you let go of me and the kids? Agatha cracks a joke about her ex and her boyfriend in the same room. Who will she choose? And we finally get the scene where Wanda says, "This is our home," and Vision says, "Then let's fight for it." We then have the epic scene where we get Vision versus Vision and the Scarlet Witch versus this insanely knowledgeable and ancient witch, Agatha Harkness. We then go to Monica and who we believe to be Quicksilver. However, we soon discover that this really isn't the case. As sad as it is, we learn that Quicksilver is actually Ralph. Specifically Ralph Boner. Weird choice there, Marvel. But this is the Ralph that Agatha has been teasing this whole entire series. And he actually does tell Monica at one point, "This is my man cave, a place to chillax while the missus is stirring up trouble." Now, since he's under her control, he truly does believe that Agatha is indeed his wife. But the big question here is, does he actually have powers? Is he actually somebody of importance? I believe that Ralph could be the person that is in witness protection that Jimmy Woo was talking about all along. After all, Ralph Boner is a very weird name, one that he himself even laughs at, so it could be made up. Hopefully it is, and hopefully he has a bigger role to play in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but that may not be the case. When Monica realizes that it's his necklace that Agatha is using to control him, and she rips it off and he comes back, he says, "Please spare my life," like he has no powers at all, like he can't do anything. If so, and if this is the case, weird move by Marvel to bring Evan Peters in as a fake Quicksilver. Perhaps them doing this is them truly telling us that the Fox X-Men are dead and aren't coming to the MCU. We go back to Vision versus Vision, and White Vision says that Wanda must be neutralized, and then he does something rather interesting. He says, "So must you," and he goes for Vision's Mind Stone in his head. This is most likely because he thinks that the Mind Stone is real and is powering this Vision. But we learn at the end of this episode that Vision is created from the part of the Mind Stone that lives in Wanda, the energy it gave her. But we know it's not the actual Mind Stone and can't survive out of the hex, and it dies with Vision. But the White Vision doesn't seemingly know that and thinks it's real, most likely because S.W.O.R.D. thought that it was real. We then go to S.W.O.R.D., who of course is trying to control White Vision, but they say that Vision systems are overloaded and they can't get anything through. This implies the new Vision is already starting to think for himself, something that definitely happens just a few scenes later. And of course, Hayward truly is a villain in his own sense, and truly a jerk. He says he's going to lie because no one knows that there are two Visions since Wanda isn't broadcasting anymore, and he says that no one will care anyways once he kills Wanda, who he deems as the threat and will make out to be a villain. But our hero, Jimmy Woo, sneakily steals a phone and teases Hayward that the FBI will be there in an hour, and then escapes from the cuffs and calls his team. Now Jimmy speaks to somebody named Cliff, and Cliff could be perhaps one of two people. There's a Cliff Garner in Marvel Comics who was formerly of the Air Force and investigated the possible conspiracy of Control. He wasn't really a big character in any way, shape, or form. A very minor character, but it could also be Cliff Randall, who was a member of the alien race known as the Collective Intelligence. He was a sleeper agent living on Earth as a normal human being until being recalled by the Intelligence. When the Collective Intelligence left Earth, he sabotaged their ship, destroying it, thereby saving Earth. They could very well change this to be a Skrull storyline. Cliff could actually be a Skrull, and since one of the FBI agents was a Skrull, this could very well line up. We then go back to Wanda and Agatha name drops the Darkhold. And as I mentioned in my theory, she mentions there's a whole chapter about the Scarlet Witch in the Darkhold, most likely due to her chaos magic and Chthon. But then Agatha says something very, very interesting. She says that Wanda's power exceeds that of the Sorcerer Supreme, meaning that Wanda's chaos magic is stronger than Doctor Strange's magic. Now in Avengers Endgame, the Ancient One told the Hulk that Doctor Strange is supposed to be the best of them. But keep in mind that Wanda isn't a master of the mystic arts, so she doesn't really count here. This doesn't mean that Doctor Strange is supposed to be stronger than Wanda. Plus, she didn't say that he was the strongest, she said that he was supposed to be the best, and there's a lot more to being the best than just strength. As I mentioned before, Agatha is holding the book where it shows the Scarlet Witch, and we see the circles on the left side, which are most likely realms or dimensions, whatever they're going to call them. For example, Mephisto is in the Hell dimension, Nightmare is in the Dream dimension. In Thor, they also mentioned that there are 9 realms, but I believe these are different and are really referring to different worlds and planets. Wanda says that she is not evil, and Agatha then releases everyone, and Dottie answers Vision's question that he had once upon a time, where he asked, "Where are all of the children?" And as it turns out, Wanda kept all the kids trapped in their rooms, and Dottie is asking if she could let them out, specifically let her daughter out. Agatha releases all of the townspeople from Wanda's hex, and all the townspeople know that it's Wanda that is doing this to them. At the same time, the twins, using Billy's psychic powers, realize what's happening and go to find their mother. They reveal that the townspeople all feel Wanda's pain. When they sleep, they have Wanda's nightmares, again pointing to my theory that Mephisto and Chthon and maybe Nightmare will all be merged into one villain, and that they're somehow influencing things with Wanda. They all attack Wanda, and it becomes too much for Wanda. She has a little bit of a meltdown and starts to choke all of them with her magic. Agatha tells her to release them, and she does, releasing the hex for a brief moment. Sword takes this opportunity to move into the hex, and as we learn, Wanda tied her family to the reality. Billy and Tommy and Vision kind of start to decimate like people did with Thanos' snap. They're kind of being dusted away as the hex goes away. So in order for Wanda to save them, she puts back up the hex. The family then unites to fight, and they look just like the Incredibles, which was on the theater display a few episodes ago. Then they take off. Vision vs. Vision, Wanda vs. Agatha, and the boys get to take out the military, which they do rather easily. Now we find out that the White Vision is tasked with taking out Vision, but Vision kind of pulls a reverse psychology on him. He says that he's not the true Vision, only a conditional one, and this intrigues White Vision. He says he requests elaboration. Then comes a truly awesome scene that some people might have a hard time following. Our Vision says, "You are familiar with the thought experiment, the ship of Theseus, in the field of identity metaphysics." The White Vision then explains that the ship of Theseus is an artifact in a museum. Over time, its planks of wood rot and are replaced with new planks. So the question is, when all of these planks are gone, when no original planks remain and they've replaced them all with new ones, is it still truly the ship of Theseus? Since none of it is from the true ship of Theseus. And that's just one part. The second part is if you take those wood planks that are rotting, restore them, take the rot off of them, and put them back on the boat, is that the ship of Theseus, considering the fact that it's the original wood minus the rot? But the answer to this is neither one of them by themselves is the true ship, but in fact both of them are the true ship. And of course they're comparing the two different versions of the ship, the one that is replaced with new wood entirely and the one that has its wood restored, to both visions. Both of these visions are not the original vision, yet they both are part of the original vision, and together, combined, they make the real vision. The White Vision has all of the vibranium, but does not have the Mind Stone, whereas the other one has everything the Mind Stone gave him and the memories of the original Vision. However, Vision awakens the mind of the White Vision, and he discovers that Sword was actually kind of mind controlling him. They were doing this with the reactor inside of his head, controlling him as a weapon, but Vision frees his mind. He frees him of Sword's control, and we can see that he becomes free as his eyes become more human. And now you have the Vision with the original parts, the vibranium, and the memories of the original Vision as well, therefore making him the real Vision. However, he then bails. He has a sudden self-realization that he is Vision and he bounces. And we don't know where he went, but one thing is for sure, he will definitely be returning at some point in time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Hopefully I explained that in a way that makes sense. I did my best. Meanwhile, Monica Rambeau is saving the twins from Hayward. Her new powers given to her from the Hex allow her to absorb the bullets and come out unharmed. Meanwhile, Billy and Tommy have powers of their own, all way too powerful for Hayward, and he bails too. But he bails because he's a little wimp, although he doesn't get far because Darcy shows up to save the day. And then she bails. We don't see her for the rest of the show. A lot of bailing in this episode. We then go to Wanda using the same mind tricks that she used on the Avengers in Age of Ultron, and she uses them on Agatha to take her back to where she originally killed her mother and her witch coven. Wanda dives into her memories and then manipulates them. All of the witches come back to life and go at Agatha until Agatha turns it around. All of the witches realize who Wanda is. She's a witch, the Scarlet Witch. And here's where we get even more evidence that a really big bad villain such as Chthon is coming. The witches say that Wanda is the one that has been written about, referring to the section about her in the Darkhold, which was written by Chthon. Then they say she's a harbinger of chaos. Now, the exact definition of a harbinger is a person or thing that announces or signals the approach of another. So Wanda is signaling the approach of chaos, or the person who created chaos magic, Chthon, who again I believe is going to be a big bad of the MCU and a villain in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, Agatha states that power isn't Wanda's problem, it's knowledge. And as she says this, a magical crown of Wanda's appears on her head, the Scarlet Witch crown. Agatha knows this is chaos magic and asks once again for her powers. And she makes her a deal. She says that if she gives her powers, she'll fix her spell so that Vision and her kids can live and never go away. And all of the people of Westview won't have to be in pain anymore. They soon then bust out of the consciousness that Agatha and Wanda are in and begin to fight in real life, where Wanda says, "Take it. I don't want it anymore." And she starts to throw her powers at Agatha. However, she ends up missing sometimes, and this actually confuses Agatha as to how she's missing. However, what we come to find out is this is actually a plan by Wanda, and she is actually casting runes. This is exactly what Agatha taught her in the previous episode, episode 8. And what she learned about runes is that in a given space, only the witch who casts them can use her magic. And since Wanda casts the runes inside of the space of the hexagon, only Wanda can use her magic. And it's a great thing that she casts them, because as soon as Agatha takes all of her powers, she immediately turns on her deal, exclaiming that once the spell is cast, it can't be changed and it's always going to be broken. Then she goes to actually kill Wanda, but she can't use her magic. Then what's very interesting is that Wanda says, "But I don't need you to tell me who I am," and the Scarlet Witch crown forms on her once again. This is even after Wanda gave all of the chaos magic to Agatha. This means that Wanda is truly destined to be the Scarlet Witch. It is her title, it is her crown. And if you tie it back to the comic's origin, it's because she was actually marked personally by Chthon. That's how she got her powers. So Wanda is the Scarlet Witch. It's not something somebody can take from her or she can give away. And Wanda knows this. She knows who she is, and she wears that crown now. Then she takes all of that power back. And then we see for the first time on screen the true Scarlet Witch in all of her power and glory, wearing her crown. Now, she unlocked more chaos magic in herself to become the Scarlet Witch, not just the ones that she was using on Agatha. And this is what causes Agatha to say, "Oh gosh, you don't know what you've done." What she means is, you've unleashed the magic of Chthon, the evil elder god. And that's why Agatha says when Wanda takes them back down to the ground, "You have no idea what you've unleashed." And she tells Wanda that she's going to need her help because eventually this evil being is going to come. But of course, Wanda says if she needs her help, she knows where to find her, because Wanda is planning on trapping her in Westview. Although it's not going to be trapped in a hexagon, Agatha is going to be trapped in a state of mind. Basically a prison of the mind, Agatha being stuck in the role of the nosy neighbor. Not being free, but trapped. She returns to Agnes, who we knew from the very beginning, and she says, "I'll be seeing you, Agnes." Then Wanda is reunited with her boys and Vision, and then Vision says, "I know you'll make everything right, but not for us." Meaning not for the family, because the hex is going to have to go away, which means Vision and the twin boys are going to have to go away. And then Wanda says, "No, not for us," implying that yes, Vision and the twin boys are going to have to die. As they start to head to their home, Wanda releases the hex, and Westview and everybody and everything inside of it turns back to normal. Back at their house, Wanda and Vision tuck in the twin boys and say that they're very proud of them. And Wanda drops some very interesting lines. She says that family is forever. We could never truly leave each other even if we tried. This of course ties into the post-credit scene where Wanda actually hears the twin boys alive somewhere. But we have a very emotional scene where Wanda and Vision say goodbye to their twin boys. And then it's time for Wanda and Vision to say goodbye. As the hex is almost gone, Vision has to ask a question, which is, what am I? He's obviously not the original Vision because he's not made out of vibranium. It's not the same body. It's someone that Wanda created. And this is a question that we've all wanted to know as well, that Wanda finally answers. This Vision is something that Wanda created that has multiple parts to him. One is a piece of the Mind Stone that lives inside of Wanda. Obviously, when Wanda came in contact with the Infinity Stone, a part of its energy went inside of her, and she inherently has a part of that Mind Stone inside of her. She physically created him out of a body of wires and bones and blood, not vibranium like the original Vision. He's also a projection of her sadness and hope. But most importantly, he is her love. He then says, "I have been a voice with no body," referring to when he was the AI Jarvis for Tony Stark. He then says, "I've been a body, but not human," referring to when Ultron built the body, a synthesoid body, not an actual human. And now he was a memory made real by Wanda. He then says, "Who knows what I'll be next, and they've said goodbye before, so it stands to reason that they'll say hello again," implying that we are indeed going to see Vision, or at least a version of him, in the future. This will most likely be the White Vision who took off all of a sudden, but did have the sudden realization that he is Vision. He is the original Vibranium Vision who now has all of the memories. Vision says, "So long, darling," and the Hex completely disappears along with Vision and her kids. And Westview goes back to the same dump that it was before, and Wanda ends up on the empty lot that Vision bought for her to where they were going to build their house. Wanda now accepts the true reality in which Vision is gone. She puts her hood on and she walks away through the town, where all of the townspeople of Westview know who she is and knows what she did. She's the one who trapped them under this spell and caused them a great amount of pain and fear. And before she leaves, she sees Monica Rambeau, in which Wanda says she's sorry and Monica says she understands because if she could bring her mother back, if she had the power to, she would. And Wanda says she doesn't understand the power that she has, but she will. And of course we know this because she has the Darkhold. She's going to learn all about how to be a true witch, the Scarlet Witch. She changes into her true Scarlet Witch outfit, leaves Westview, and that is the end of WandaVision. But keep in mind that Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, said that WandaVision will have one season, but Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is basically WandaVision Season 2. But that is it for this season of WandaVision. I truly enjoyed it. I was wrong about a lot of things, right about some things, but I loved every second of it. I loved coming up with theories. I loved all of the watch parties and talking with you all. And in a couple of weeks, we can all be very excited because the Falcon and the Winter Soldier starts. I'll be doing watch parties for those as well, so be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can get updates on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And of course, let me know what you thought about the WandaVision finale in the comments down below. Don't forget to give the video a like, and for live updates, you can always follow me on Instagram and Twitter. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.